At dawn, as mist rises from the Indus plains and the Ganges coils like liquid memory through the heart of South Asia, a vast land mass awakens, a subcontinent not merely of geography, but of time itself, where the weight of human history presses so densely upon the earth that every riverbank, mountain pass, and ruined city seems to breathe with voices of the past. And it is here, in the Indian subcontinent, that one of humanity's most continuous, complex, and consequential stories unfolds, a story stretching back more than 70,000 years, to the first anatomically modern humans who crossed into this land from Africa, following monsoon paths and fertile corridors, long before borders, before nations, before names, when stone tools and fire marked the earliest chapters of survival. As millennia pass, the camera of history glides forward to the Bronze Age, to the emergence of one of the world's earliest urban civilizations, the Indus Valley Civilization, rising around 2600 BCE along the Indus and its tributaries, where cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro reveal an astonishing sophistication, grid-planned streets, standardized brickwork, advanced drainage systems, and a civic order suggesting governance without visible kings, a mystery that still haunts archaeologists, their undeciphered script whispering secrets of trade networks stretching to Mesopotamia, of artisans, merchants, and a society whose sudden decline around 1900 BCE, perhaps due to climate shifts, river changes, or tectonic forces, marks the first great turning point, not an end, but a transformation, as populations migrate eastward toward the Gangetic plains, carrying with them cultural memories that will seed the next epoch. From this crucible emerges the Vedic Age, between roughly 1500 and 500 BCE, as Indo-Aryan-speaking pastoral groups compose hymns that become the Rigveda, invoking gods of fire, storm, and cosmic order, laying the foundations of Hindu philosophy, social organization, and ritual practice, while the caste system begins to crystallize, shaping social hierarchies that will endure, contested and evolving, for thousands of years. The narrative accelerates as iron technology spreads, agriculture expands, and powerful kingdoms Mahajanapadas rise across northern India, setting the stage for a profound intellectual and spiritual revolution, as figures like Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, and Mahavira, founder of Jainism, challenge Vedic orthodoxy in the 6th century BCE. Preaching paths of renunciation, nonviolence, and liberation from suffering, their teachings radiating across Asia, transforming not only religious thought but ethics, art, and statecraft. Amid this ferment, empires are born, none more formidable than the Mauryan Empire, forged by Chandragupta Maurya in the wake of Alexander the Great's fleeting incursion into the northwest, and reaching its zenith under Ashoka the Great, whose reign in the 3rd century BCE marks one of history's most extraordinary moral pivots, as the bloodshed of the Kalinga War compels the emperor to embrace Buddhism, renouncing conquest by the sword in favor of conquest by Dharma, inscribing edicts on stone pillars across the subcontinent that speak of tolerance, welfare, and ethical governance, a moment when imperial power and moral philosophy briefly align, yet history does not pause, and after the Mauryas, the subcontinent fragments and reforms, absorbing waves of influence from Indo-Greeks, Scythians, Kushans, each leaving imprints on coinage, art, and administration, as the Silk Road binds India to a global network of exchange, carrying spices, textiles, ideas, and religions across continents, while in the early centuries CE, the Gupta Empire ushers in what is often called a golden age, where advances in mathematics zero, the decimal system, astronomy, medicine, and literature flourish, and classical Sanskrit culture reaches new heights, even as social stratification deepens, revealing the duality of brilliance and inequality that threads through the subcontinent's past. As the Gupta order wanes, regional kingdoms rise in the south, the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas, masters of naval power and temple architecture, whose influence stretches across the Indian Ocean to Southeast Asia, exporting Hinduism, Buddhism, and artistic forms, while colossal stone temples like Brihadiswarar stand as testaments to divine kingship and engineering prowess. The medieval period ushers in another seismic shift as Islam enters the subcontinent, first through Arab traders along the western coast, then through Turkic and Afghan conquests beginning in the 12th century, culminating in the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate, a series of dynasties that introduce new administrative systems, military technologies, and cultural syntheses. As Persian becomes the language of court, Indo-Islamic architecture reshapes skylines, and Sufi mystics spread a devotional Islam that resonates deeply with local traditions, even as periods of tolerance alternate with episodes of conflict and iconoclasm, reflecting the complex interplay of faith, power, and identity. From this crucible emerges one of the subcontinent's most magnificent empires, the Mughal Empire, founded in 1526 by Babur, a descendant of Timur and Genghis Khan, and reaching unparalleled splendor under Akbar, whose reign exemplifies syncretic governance, religious debate, and centralized administration, uniting much of the subcontinent under a single imperial vision, followed by Jahangir, Shah Jahan, the builder of the Taj Mahal, that marble elegy to love and loss, and Aurangzeb, whose orthodox policies and relentless expansion strain the empire's foundations, revealing the limits of imperial control over such vast diversity. As Mughal authority fractures in the 18th century, the camera pulls back to reveal a new force arriving by sea: the European trading companies, Portuguese, Dutch, French, but above all the British East India Company, which transforms from merchant enterprise to territorial power through military conquest, political manipulation, and economic extraction, exploiting divisions among Indian polities. And after the watershed Battle of Plassey in 1757, begins a colonial domination that will reshape the subcontinent's economy, society, and destiny, dismantling indigenous industries, redirecting wealth to Britain, and imposing new legal and administrative structures under the British Raj. Resistance simmers and erupts, most dramatically in the Indian Rebellion of 1857, a vast, brutal uprising that shakes imperial confidence and marks the transition to direct crown rule, while the late 19th and early 20th centuries see the rise of Indian nationalism, as Western-educated elites and mass movements converge, forging new political consciousness through organizations like the Indian National Congress, and leaders such as Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and most iconically, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, whose philosophy of nonviolent resistance mobilizes millions, turning moral pressure into a weapon against empire. Yet the struggle for freedom is inseparable from the deepening question of identity, as communal tensions between Hindus and Muslims intensify under colonial policies and political anxieties, leading to the cataclysmic partition of 1947, when the subcontinent is divided into independent India and Pakistan, triggering one of the largest migrations in human history and a wave of violence that claims over 1 million lives, etching trauma into the collective memory of the region. Independence does not end history's momentum, as new nations grapple with the legacies of colonialism, poverty, and diversity. India embarking on a democratic experiment under Jawaharlal Nehru, Pakistan navigating cycles of military and civilian rule, Bangladesh emerging from war in 1971, Sri Lanka and Nepal forging their own paths, and the subcontinent as a whole becoming a focal point of Cold War politics, nuclear rivalry, and globalization. Today, as satellites orbit above ancient rivers and megacities sprawl where forests once stood, the subcontinent stands as a testament to continuity and change, a place where prehistoric migrations, imperial ambitions, spiritual revolutions, and modern nation-states converge, where the past is never distant but layered beneath the present, and as the narrator's voice fades over images of crowded streets, silent ruins, and sacred landscapes, one truth remains unmistakable: the history of the subcontinent is not a single story, but a vast, unfolding epic of resilience and contradiction, unity and fracture, destruction and renewal that has shaped, and continues to shape, the course of the world.